Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to Trading the Close. My name is Gareth Soloway, and as always, I'm here to guide you through what happened today in the markets, not just stock market, but crypto markets as well as commodity market. All right, so what do we have going on here? Well, we had the CPI data this morning that came in slightly better than expected. The stock market, again, kind of had expected that, so we didn't see a lot of additional rallies in the market. We did see some upside early and then some sideways chop, and it looks like we're rallying a little bit into the end of the day here. I have some interesting trading ideas that I'm going to pass along to you guys in just a little bit as well. All right, let's take a look here at the markets overall. We have the Dow Jones Industrial Average up 300 points. The NASDAQ is down about 40 points. S&P up about 30 points. And oil pulling back again, gold pulling back, and Bitcoin pulling back. So really, again, equity markets about on the mixed side with the NASDAQ under a little bit of pressure, but overall the S&P and the Dow are gaining. If we look at the heat map today, notice how it's kind of got a mix of red as well as green, and then some gray as well, which again, gray is basically around the unchanged marker. And that just tells us that it's more of a sideways day. You don't have a big rally, you don't have a big drop. It just is what it is. All right. So on that note, let's flip back here and let's take a quick look at what we have in terms of the intraday price action. So here's your S&P 500 on an intraday 10-minute basis. We can see this is where we opened today. You had a little bit of an open higher, not much, just barely higher, faded, then a nice rally, a lot of sideways chop, and then an end of day, little bit of a push up here that's going to close us just below the highs of the day. And again, a positive day on the S&P, but by no means is it a robust, massive rally like we've been seeing in some of the other days in the last week or so. Ever since that bottom last Monday, that crazy flush out where the VIX soared to, I think it soared to about 65. Speaking of the VIX, I got to show you guys this. This is incredible. The VIX, guys, is trading near 16. The quickness at which the VIX has fallen back here is actually astounding. But I will say this is that the VIX in the 16 range, generally, if we look at where this was before the big pop, I mean, even going here, it was around 12 to 13. So it tells you that there's not a whole lot of downside left, even if it continues to go down to when the stock market was at all-time highs. So what that does is it means the risk reward at being long the VIX is actually very, very attractive. All right. And again, the ways to play the VIX, if you're a short-term trader, the VXX or the VIXY, or if you're a futures trader, you can obviously play the VIX itself. But again, if you look at the risk reward now, you're at 16, even just going back to where we were before that big flush, we were trading around 16. So we've kind of done a full round trip. And even if it goes back to where the markets were trading at all-time highs, you're only going back to 12 to 13. It's not that far or not that much downside at this point in time. All right, so that's just an idea there for overall trading opportunities. Now let's flip to the SPY here, because again, I gave you guys this zone literally days and days ago. I said, look, watch for this zone. I called it the zone of death for the markets, because this is where we're headed back to. Once we get in this zone, this is where the risk reward starts to get very intriguing on the short side. And sure enough, where are we? We're literally right inside of the zone of death here. So again, if we zoom in, you can see there's a gap fill, there's downsloping, upsloping trend lines, all coordinated right in that mix. That favors, again, based on technical analysis and probabilities, that favors a move to the downside off of these levels. And interestingly enough, the VIX kind of confirms that, right? The VIX is getting very, very low. So now we want to see, okay, does the VIX end up popping up a little bit, which could indicate a stock market sell, or at least a little bit of the fear trade coming back into the mix. Really wild stuff, though. All right. We do have Cisco Systems earnings after the bell here in just a few minutes, so we'll take a look at that. But again, Cisco Systems is not the market mover that it used to be, but it's still one to watch. And again, it's supposed to come out at 4:05 p.m. Eastern time. That's really the only big name after hours here. Stone Corp STNE is a fun one for us to trade sometimes. So let's take a look at that, see if those earnings are out just yet. And again, Stone Corp, let's take a look. Nope, nothing out yet on Stone Corp. Just kind of chopping around the sideways. Oh, there we go. A little bit of an uptick on Stone STNE. This is, by the way, this is a Brazilian. They mostly operate in Brazil, I think, with payments and so forth. So again, it tends to be a good mover, as sometimes they blow out earnings, sometimes they miss earnings. If we zoom out on the chart, we can see it's kind of in a mixed bag. If you look back at how high it was in 2021, it was incredible. But since then, it's kind of come back in here, and it's in the lower ranges. I have a former little channel there on the chart. And again, it kind of rallied over the last few days, but so did everything rallying up. There's some resistance here. We'll see if it pops through that. Let's take a look. Yeah, so far, not much. It looks like it's down ticking a little bit now after an initial little uptick. Okay. All right, going to a couple other things. Let's flip over to Bitcoin. Bitcoin has stalled out again. You can see how hard it is for Bitcoin to get above this trend line. This is my pivot line. Again, to really flip to a bullish bias, you need to close above and confirm. If it does that, then all of a sudden it should see further upside. But right now, obviously, it can't do that, and it's still below. And you did get a little sell-off today. So I would just point this out, is that the stock market was around the flat line today. Dow was up, S&P was up, NASDAQ was down fractionally, and Bitcoin was not able to catch a bid or even be flat on the day. It's a little concerning, right? I mean, if you look at the price action on Bitcoin, had an initial big bounce, but then for the last 2, 4, 6 days, Bitcoin's gone sideways to lower. Now, maybe it's forming a bull flag pattern, but again, just compare that to the S&P 500, which has literally gone up almost every single day in a vertical move. And so again, you do see a little disparity there where it seems like Bitcoin is losing some of the buying pressure that it had. And again, that can signal vulnerability that if the stock market starts to drop, Bitcoin could be at risk of really dumping out again. Gold today, a little bit of a pullback. I added in 2 new trend lines for us to watch. So we have our bigger channel, right? Our bigger channel here, parallel line up here. And then what we're creating in the charts is a wedge pattern. So if we close above this, you should zoom right up to the high end, which would be 2,500. If we come down to this line, this would be support. If that breaks, you go down here. So it's very defined, very easy to tell, and you're stuck in this range, basically between 2,400 and 2,470. That's that range in there on gold. If we look at silver, silver was into resistance. We knew that. And sure enough, you did get a little bit of a pullback. So on silver, can it break back up and actually get above and confirm, or does it get pushed back down to this support here at 2650? If it does break 2650, then simply put, it's coming down to this level at 2535 and potentially even lower. So again, we know our levels here. Now it's just watching to see which way triggers, which way confirms for that next big move. Looking at oil today, oil did come down. I was telling my traders and my investors and my services to just be aware that sometimes charts just don't give you a good bias. And we knew that this was support. You got a great bounce, but now you're kind of equidistant between this resistance and this support. There's no bull flag here. There's no indicators here that tell me, oh, it's definitely high probability going down, high probability going up. So what do? We just sit back and say, okay, well, we'll wait on this until we get a better signal. If that better signal comes around, then we'll trade it. It's just that simple. Okay. Natural gas. This is an interesting one, guys, on nat gas. Take a look. If we zoom in on this chart, we basically closed on or just above the level today. So I want to see it really confirm above this level before I really believe that it's going up to this 255 level. But finally, at least we got a sign that there could be some life here to the upside on natural gas. And I'll follow that obviously tomorrow morning. Excuse me. Quickly flipping over to Cisco Systems. Cisco Systems looks like it initially popped here. I don't know if earnings are out yet, but needless to say, with a pop up all the way to 46, it probably is out here. They're supposed to come out at 4:05 p.m. Eastern time. Maybe they got released a little early, but still almost no movement here on the chart. Very, very minimal price action there. All right, other stocks making moves today. We'll come back to Cisco in just 1 second. But Nvidia, guys, look at my levels on Nvidia here. We just came up and kissed this one today. Nvidia did have another update to it today. So Nvidia is now, I think, rallied 31% in just over a week off of the recent lows. And this isn't a $100 billion company. We're talking about a company with a market cap, a whopping market cap of, at the time, 2.5 trillion. Now it's approaching 3 trillion again. But really remarkable move to the upside on that. But it is coming into resistance here. Can't deny that. It is absolutely coming into resistance. All right. Apple is also into some interesting levels here. If we take a look at the chart, You can see I annotated some of this out with some arrows. You have a trend line right here through these lows, and that's what we hit today. And this is also happens to be the Fibonacci. Take a look at the Fib. If we take the all-time high here, we stretch it down to the recent lows. This was also the 618 Fibonacci right there. So there is a lot of resistance on Apple. Don't be surprised if we do get some sort of pullback on Apple in the coming days. Just checking back in. Ooh, look at Cisco, guys. So there's those earnings definitely out now, folks. No doubt about it. That's a big pop on Cisco. Now, Cisco won't really impact the markets overall that much. They're not going to. It's not going to overpower an Nvidia move or something like that. But nonetheless, that is a nice move on earnings. If we go to the daily chart, it's trading just under 48. There is going to be resistance at 48.75. This little high pivot right here. These dual little highs. If it gets through that level, let's see what could be next. The only thing I see that could be if it gets through that area, it looks like there's an upsloping line here. So just up in here. So 40, basically this level, 48.75 to 49 will be a lot of resistance. And then if it obviously continues up, $50 right up here. But this area right in here with this upsloping trend line and this flat trend line across, this zone here should be very good resistance on the stock in the after hours. And it's getting awfully close, still around 48, but you can see just above here, there's that trend line right around 49 or so. All right. All righty, guys. So that's where we are today on the markets. A flattish, a little bit up, a little bit down kind of type of day. I would say generally more up than down today, but it certainly wasn't the robust rally that we saw yesterday. Tomorrow morning, watch Walmart earnings, Deere earnings. DE is the symbol on Deere. WMT is Walmart's earnings symbol. And also make sure we watch the jobless claims. Normally, I would say who cares about the jobless claims, but last week it actually triggered one of the biggest rallies we have seen in the market. Therefore, we need to monitor that, no doubt about it. You guys have a great one as always. Thanks for tuning in, guys. I'll talk to you soon. Take care.